Nirvana the band, the show is the best new show of 2017 and one of the funniest things I've seen in quite a long time. Now, I've watched and thoroughly enjoyed both of Matt Johnson's previous feature films, but I have to say that this new TV show is my favorite out of all of them.
The concept of this show is there's two musicians in Toronto, it's me and Jay, and all we want to do is get a show at the Rivoli. And if that sounds stupid, you ain't seen nothing yet.
His guerrilla mockumentary style of filmmaking had lended itself quite well to his comedically seasoned dramas, but when applied to this now full-on comedy TV show, it fits to an absolute perfection. In the style of Borat and Bruno, much of the show is improvised, but it's done so in a way where they can still get to a predetermined point A and point B. That being said, there are instances of them changing the script based around what happens to take place. Now, obviously, Kevin Smith is in on this one, as he played a big role in helping distribute Matt Johnson's first feature film, The Dirties, but this girl who enters the scene is actually a real person.
I've never had a drink before, do you think?
You bastard. I know you're
It's not a joke. No, I'm seriously not kidding.
We'll pound it then.
What do I just drink?
Just open your mouth and pour it. Don't. There you go.
And just like that, they changed the plot of the episode to include Matt Johnson's character discovering his newfound love for alcohol.
It's so great to have those things in the real world happening at the same time, because that, I think, is what this style of filmmaking can do that others can't, because it's very rare to see those two things existing at the same time, like plot and documentary, both affecting one another, but not really. It's almost like a trick. And so when that happens, we're so happy. It's almost like the show knows what's going to happen in reality. And that's just because we make it backwards.
Now, one of the highlights of the show is the hilarious reactions they get by fucking with people. But to the show's credit, it is no way dependent on these reactions to be funny. Even if every single person on the show turned out to be an actor, it would still be hilarious regardless. But with many reactions in the show being so incredibly genuine, I'd be very surprised to find out that's the case.
Hey, you want the Falcon back, but I want it fair and square. I'm Han Solo.
No.
The show presents vibes of the Ali G Show, Nathan For You, and Kenny vs. Spenny, and despite all that, it still feels entirely original. One thing that those previously mentioned shows don't do is put an insane amount of efforts into setups and tie-ins, and the fact that this show bothers to do this ensures that there's plenty to pick up on repeated watches. For example, at the end of episode 3, Jay gives Matt the original Star Wars trilogy on VHS as a Christmas present.
Star Wars!
At the beginning of episode 4, they use this as a way to set up Matt being blind for the entire episode. Now, on a repeated viewing of episode 3, you might notice something clever about how they set this up.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm pretending I'm blind, and Jay's gonna hand me my gift. We do this every Christmas.
Small details like that are found absolutely everywhere in this show, whether it's a direct setup or not. During the blindness episode, Jay is shown playing with devil sticks.
Sorry.
Very cool, buddy.
And wouldn't you know it, the opening title sequence of this episode is a direct parody of the Netflix Daredevil series. Daredevil? Devil sticks? Get it? During episode 1, the characters are in a library.
Okay, they actually had them. It's Jurassic Park, Home Alone. Who cares? But okay, negotiator. The negotiator. Sammy J.
Now, during your first viewing, this line doesn't seem very important at all, and Matt quickly interrupts it to continue on with the actual plot of the episode. But the films Jay mentioned in this first episode are actually ones that the show directly parodies as the season goes on. Sometimes the parody is incredibly obvious. Sometimes the characters will literally say what they're parodying as they're doing it.
That's from King of Fighters.
But oftentimes it's done with such a subtlety that once again really adds to repeated viewings. Now, some of you may remember back in October 2016 when I interviewed Matt Johnson for his film Operation Avalanche. The film actually premiered at Sundance earlier in the year, but get this, they actually used this as a clever opportunity to film an episode. So in the episode of Nirvana the band, the show, the characters make a home movie about them trying to take down a pedophile ring in a high school.
Where's my credit?
And wouldn't you know it, the title of their film is Operation Avalanche.
And then imagine that, you're the star of the Sundance film, everybody's coming up to you, hey, are you that guy from Operation Avalanche? That's the title of. I'm not sure how much do you guys.
So essentially, they used a real Sundance screening of a real film they made to get footage to later use to pretend as though it's for a completely different film that the characters in the Nirvana the Band the Show universe made. During real interviews, they nonchalantly snuck in phrases that they could later use for the episode, and during the actual screening of Matt Johnson's real film, they introduced the film as their characters that also have the same names just to get footage for the show.
But it was all, that is a whole super old Mormon crowd watching it, as you can see from their reactions, and they were buying that was reality. Like that lady who's like, wow, wow, whoa, what am I watching? And the old man who's watching Jay as he walks off stage like,
Now, oddly enough, Nirvana the Band the Show actually started out as a web series in 2006 that gained a bit of a cult following. And considering that was over 10 years ago when Matt and Jay were just fresh out of university, the difference in production quality between the old web series and this new TV show is night and day. Not to mention they now have Spike Jonze producing the show, and if you're a fan of this channel, you already know how awesome that is. But with Viceland as a partner, apparently they're just letting them do whatever they want. And when I say Viceland's letting them do whatever they want, I can only really think of one exception, and it's kind of hilarious.
It's our big fat pedophile character, Mr. Finn, who is always blaming the dryer for shrinking his clothes.
Doesn't have to be a pedophile. Just
Doesn't
fat
have
is
to be,
fine.
but that's his choice.
If it helps you get into character, that's fine. But I don't.
That is the character. He's a
Fine.
he chooses to be a pedophile.
Fine.
He wasn't born that way.
Just don't say it out loud.
Or maybe
Internalize
he is
it.
one of these guys who's born that way, and it makes it very difficult for the LGBT community to figure out how to criticize them. That's my sexuality. Yeah, you put a.
Don't say that.
This show is an absolute blast to watch, and it's been a long time since I've actually been excited to watch new episodes of a TV show. And although I genuinely mean everything I'm saying in this review, I'm still going to issue a disclaimer because it's not that hard to do. I've hung out with Matt Johnson more than once at a couple different film festivals. I also hung out with a lot of the crew members at Toronto Film Fest last year, and since the show's only made by about 15 people, I think I've got like half of them on Facebook now. That being said, I genuinely love this show, otherwise I would not be recommending it to you. The only obligation I feel towards recommending this show is because I genuinely feel as though it does not have the audience it deserves. And that's actually pretty unfortunate. Just looking at how the show's promotional material is being received on Vice's YouTube channel, it seems as though people are quick to pass this off as nothing more than some shitty, effortless reality TV show. And I almost don't blame them because it's a little difficult to tell from first glance if you're not familiar with Matt Johnson's style. And this is partially why his film The Dirties wound up on my Guilty Pleasures list of 2013 rather than the actual list itself. If I could make the list again, I think I'd have it swap places with The Congress. Again, not super high on the list or anything, but at this point, now that I'm more familiar with his work, I don't really consider it to be a guilty pleasure anymore. When dealing with super low budget films from first-time directors, I think it's important for me to play it safe in terms of how I rate them. If I can't even see how someone would work under different budgetary restrictions, then sometimes it's difficult to tell how much of the film's success was their own doing. And in that same sense, with Escape from Tomorrow being the only film from Randy Moore, I'd need to see another film from him to be able to fully understand the level of self-awareness going into that film. I mean, Escape from Tomorrow is also on my 2013 Guilty Pleasures list, so who knows, maybe the next film Randy Moore directs will change that. Anyway, now that I think I have a better grasp on what Matt Johnson's trying to do with his films, I can confidently say that he's doing it well. And speaking of Escape from Tomorrow, there's something else that should be mentioned about this show. The same lawyer, Chris Perez, that did clearance counsel for Escape from Tomorrow is now working with Matt Johnson on his new show. And with his help, they are paving the way to normalize fair use practices in modern media. And if you enjoy this YouTube channel you're watching right now at all, that should obviously be a big deal.
The question was, how much money do we pay John Williams? And making our last feature, Operation Avalanche, we learned so much about fair use on copywritten material, whether it's video or music, that now, you could ask the same question, how much did we pay Disney to show a legal cam of Star Wars Episode 7? But again, we just got it all for free because of American fair use law.
Or Billy Joel, for that matter.
Well, Billy Joel is still a bit of a work in progress.
Now, the only real thing I'll say to watch out for this show is to try not to misinterpret it, because like I said, it's possible to pass this off if you don't know what you're watching. Don't be fooled into thinking that this is a show that's pretending that every single thing they're doing is real. There's obviously a decent amount amount that isn't, and there's obviously a decent amount that is.
We're in a band.
Okay, hang on a second. You're not students, right?
No.
You don't look like students?
No, we're not students. We're making a movie. And
So that means you've got media consent form, you've got a visitor pass.
No, we don't.
See, I tried to tell you this, man.
You're adults in a high school.
Right.
And as for the scenes where I genuinely can't tell, I almost don't even want to ask them. There's something fun about leaving it a mystery and just accepting the fictional universe they're presenting. It's all edited together so well that I'm just excited to watch the sequence of events as they unfold. And for those of you who still think that this is just some stupid nonsense and nothing more, let me break down the opening scene for you. So Matt and Jay are discussing plans of how they should best present their show at the Rivoli. Even though they don't have an actual show booked yet and they spend the rest of the season trying to make that happen, still they go through ideas of how to best present themselves to an audience. And by the way, as somebody that heavily appreciates music and the ability to play by ear, the way that Jay's able to showcase his natural talent by essentially scoring the scene as it's happening is pretty awesome.
So I think that we should begin with, sort of like a very simple scene where they don't know we're a band yet. Because they're gonna see, okay, Nirvana the band plays the Rivoli tonight. Instantly, people are going, what the hell?
Wait, let's before you start.
Yeah,
Let's do like it's like the start of a sitcom or something,
exactly.
and it's like.
So we're upstage, and you get started. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming to the show tonight. I'm Matt, and this is Jay, and we are Nirvana the band, and we're going to put on a hell of a show. Actually, you can't say that, because if you say it's going to be a great show, then right away, every hipster in the audience is like,
That's true.
right.
Don't say it's going to be a good show.
Great show.
Say
It's going to be a bad show.
it's going to be a bad show.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, show it from the top. Ladies and gentlemen, I got news for you. This show is going to be a bit of a piece of shit.
Wait, no. Why would you say that?
We just finished saying that we can't go up and say that it's going to be good.
No,
Now, some of you may have already clued into this, but there's actually two things going on here at once. On surface level, they're talking about how to present their show to the Rivoli, but they're also breaking the fourth wall and talking about how to present the TV show that they're on to viewers that haven't seen it before. Literally, the first line of the entire show is them describing what they're doing as they're doing it.
So I think that we should begin with, sort of like a very simple scene where they don't know we're a band yet. Because they're gonna see, okay, Nirvana the band plays the Rivoli tonight. Instantly, people are going, what the hell?
Cool shit like that is found everywhere in this show, and it makes the experience even more fun and engaging. And that's just one of the reasons why I've seen every episode several times.
we need to make a good first impression.
Yeah, that's right. We're doing first impressions.
Who are these guys?
Yeah, exactly.
They look a little. I'm not sure if I trust them.
Exactly. White guys.
And then there's a little bit of tension. It's like Sam Neill when he's about to see the dinosaurs for the first time.
That's a good first impression. Jurassic Park leaves a great first impression. Oh yeah, that's right. He's got the glasses on, and he's looking at the thing.
And then
All right,
finally
are we
she
supposed
turns
to
his
go-
head, and he sees.
Anyway, hopefully this sells you on giving this show a chance, because honestly, it is something that deserves your support. Even though it's a show that airs on US networks, it's still a Canadian show set in Canada. And holy crap, you have no idea how incredibly infrequent it is to have a quality show of that description. Anyway, I genuinely love this show, and they did not ask me to make this for them, despite being in somewhat good contact with them. It's just something that I really want to see succeed, so check out the links in the video description for places to watch it. Oh, and good news, they're already making Season 2 and 3. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Synecdoche Part 5 coming soon. Peace!